Welcome to Chasing Time. I'm Tim Lewis, and today I'm chasing time at the Boothbay Railway Village. And my guest today is Denny Wilkinson. Denny, can you highlight your background and how you became involved with the Railway Village?
Well, I was in business for many years, and I retired and I had to keep busy. So I was very familiar with the Railway Museum. I have been coming up to Boothbay Harbor for 40 years. I brought my children, now I'm bringing my grandchildren up to the museums. But what I found was that it would be fun to work here. There's so many diverse exhibits. Every time I came here, I found something new. So the village was looking for a curator for the Antique Automobile Museum. So I applied, signed up, and this was all 3.5 years ago, and got the job. And as things evolved, I really enjoyed working up at the Antique Auto Museum, but I also said maybe we could do some tours.
Yeah.
And got the right people, and they said, yeah, that's a good idea. So we wrote up a tour guide and started touring this year, and it's been fun.
So how many tours do you do in a day?
Well, I just do 1 or 2 on Tuesdays, and then we do private tours, and we've been doing more and more private tours. The American Cruise Line comes in, and we've been doing private tours for them. We do bus tours. So it really varies by week, but usually 2 or 3 tours a week.
So that keeps your schedule pretty busy then.
It'll keep me busy.
Yeah.
It'll keep me busy, but it's fun.
Yeah, you enjoy it.
Yes,
so
I do.
That's the main thing.
But
yeah.
it's because the museum is so diverse. We are recreating Maine in the early 1900s. And as a result, you've got so many interesting things from this building. This building is the Freeport train station that was built in 1912, primarily for L.L. Bean. Well, by 1964, it was obsolete because L.L. Bean had grown so tremendously, and it was going to be demolished.
Wow.
Our founder, George McAvoy, had been teaching down in that area, and he knew about the station, and he found out that they were going to demolish it. He bought it for $1.
Oh, wow.
But that wasn't the challenge.
No.
How do you get it from Freeport to Boothbay? Right. It was amazing how inventive he was. He cut it into 8 sections over a 3-day period. He put it on tractor trailers, had the state police help him bring it up here, gets it up here in 8 sections, and then he has to put it back together. And by the way, I've seen pictures of it in 1964. It's exactly the same.
Exactly.
He did an exact replica, putting it all together.
Wow.
So
that was the process.
That's the process. But it was the introduction to the Boothbay Railway Museum.
And what year was that, Leonard?
1964.
64.
Yep.
Wow.
1964.
So that dates back a few years.
A few years. We celebrated last year our 50th anniversary.
50th. Wow.
60. I'm sorry. 60th anniversary.
60th anniversary.
Yep.
Well, that speaks well for the facility, I would say.
Well, and he worked this for a long time. I mean, he added and added and added. It wasn't until the early 80s that he added the Antique Auto Museum. And, he, in the 90s, he was in search of real buildings that were helpful to recreate the feeling of Maine in the 1900s.
Right.
He went out and found the Boothbay Harbor Town Hall.
Yeah.
It was built in 1847.
real classic.
He brought it over here in the early 1900s. He found a chapel in Spruce Point, which is part of Boothbay Harbor, that was built in 1923, and he brought it over here. And fascinating, there was a homestead across the street here that was built in 1872, and he bought it and brought it over. Now we have a homestead that will give you a feeling of what it was like to live in the early 1900s. And he furnished it with furnishings from the early 1900s. Wow. So stoves, wooden stoves, and things of that nature.
Original all the way.
Original all the way, yeah. So that's what's so fascinating about it. There's so many things here that are to be uncovered when you come visiting. Not just the trains. The train's fantastic. There's a whole story about steam engines and narrow gauge, and why was narrow gauge so important in Maine? Well, it was the really only way for lumbering to get their logs from up top of mountains
Right.
to the rivers so
True.
they can get to the mills.
Yep.
And it was the most inexpensive way.
Yeah.
So it was a big part of the major economy in Maine in the early 1900s.
It was. So it's
because
a learning experience.
It's really a learning experience, is right. So, and we've got a narrow gauge museum up on top by the Automobile Museum. So if you really want to dig deep to where all these narrow gauge went in Maine, it's right in the museum.
You got the facts.
We got the facts.
Facts to prove it.
Yes, sir. We do have the facts. Let's take a tour.
Let's take a tour. I'm all for it.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Good.
You lead the way.
All righty.
Yep. Denny, how often does the train make the loop around the property?
The train runs every hour from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. It makes a loop around, and in the second loop, it stops up top at the Thorndike station.
I see.
So any of the visitors who want to go to the Automobile Museum or the Miniature Railway Museum can get off and go right into the exhibits there.
Now, can you give us some history about the founder, George McAvoy?
George was a fascinating individual. He was adventurous, he was progressive, and he, at an early age, fell in love with antique cars. At 15, he bought an antique hearse.
Really?
And he was always involved with railway. He grew up in Grafton, Mass., went to college in Nason College in Maine, but summered in Southport, which is part of the Boothbay region.
Right.
And he, once out of college, was an elementary school teacher, then a principal. But then he decided to spend more time up in Boothbay, and he had the idea of the Railway Museum. So in 1964, he had this idea. He was fascinated with narrow gauge railway, and he found some narrow gauge tracks, which were abundant in Maine in the early 1900s. He went far and away to find steam engines. He went all the way to Germany to find Hensel steam engines and bought 2. And he bought a diesel engine as well. And then he bought the Freeport train station. And that was the start.
That's the focal point.
That's the focal point, because that's what you first see. You buy your admission tickets there.
Right.
But he was absolutely fascinating. He was very generous. He was involved throughout the community, providing funds to the YMCA, the fire, the police. But most fascinating, he kept on involving in the museum, and he kept on building on it. And he looked for buildings that were authentic, that he could move here. Okay, this Boothbay Town Hall.
Yeah.
They were building a new one in the 1990s.
Yeah, that's true.
He bought it and brought it
Moved
here. The Spruce Point Chapel. It was built in 1923. Well, around about the 90s, it wasn't being used anymore. He moved it lock, stock, and barrel here. It's absolutely fascinating what he was able to do. The Thorndike Station was one of our first stations. It was a rail station in Thorndike, Maine. Yeah. He bought it and moved it here. So these are very authentic buildings.
So he was preserving a legacy for Maine.
Yes,
Maine Rail.
He was, beyond that, once he got Maine Rail, he went in and said, "I want Maine living. I want to show what it was like to live in Maine in the early 1900s." So he bought, the homestead, which is really an interesting way, because back then you didn't have the retail stores. I mean, you might have the town hall and maybe one general store, but clothing and things of that nature, you made those things in your homestead. Yeah. So he bought the homestead to show what it was like to live there. Then he bought a toy store, and he filled it with toys from the early 1900s. And you see kids go into the toy store, and they're fascinated. They can't believe that those are the kind of toys relative to what they see today.
That's true.
In the early 1900s.
So it's a look back in time.
It absolutely.
And a preservation of time.
And a feeling that you could actually feel that you're living the early 1900s.
Yeah, that's a nice theme to set, I think.
It is.
Lenny, I remember this old town hall when it was operating. And,
so you were alive in 1847? Oh my gosh.
That was my great-great-grandfather.
You don't look that old.
Great-great-grandfather.
If you go back into the early 1900s, the town hall was everything.
It was.
You had your weddings
Yep.
here. You had your town meetings here. You had your memorial services
Right.
here. You had your parties here. You had your dances here. So it was the hub of the community,
It
which
was.
is why it's here, right here, as you begin to enter the village
Yeah.
exhibits, because we want to emphasize the fact that this was the hub.
It was
if
the hub.
if you will. Now, so we're continuing that tradition. We have weddings here.
Do you really?
On a fairly regular basis. I think we have one in September.
Really?
Where we use this, or we put up a tent in the field, but we're trying to continue that tradition of making sure that people know they can use our town hall for lots of.
It's in beautiful
on a
shape.
sad side, we had an individual die who worked with us for a long time. It wasn't George. It was worked with us
I
for
see.
a long time, and we had his memorial service in here.
That would
The only
seem-
problem is we almost didn't have enough room because everybody was
people
paying
coming.
tribute
Yeah.
to him because he was such a nice general. He was a conductor on the railway
Oh, really?
for many, many, many years.
Oh.
So everybody loved him. That's what
Yeah.
the town
Well,
hall's all about.
The building looks like it's in pristine shape.
We keep in good shape. We keep it, but remember, it was built in 1847, so you got to
say,
make sure that you keep maintaining it. Because
I'd say it's weathered the years pretty
yes,
good.
It
then.
has. It has. Absolutely.
Denny, what can you tell us about the chapel?
The chapel was built in 1923. We moved it over here in 1995. It was a mainstay on Spruce Point, which is on the east side of the Booth Bay Harbor. But unfortunately, it went the way of too small, and they expanded, and the Catholic Church was built and all of that. So we found it unused, but perfect shape. So George moved it over here because chapels of this nature, small chapels back in the early 1900s, were paramount to the community.
They were.
So all around here are some interesting exhibits. One, which I find fascinating, is a salt and pepper shaker exhibit. Now, people say salt and pepper shakers are okay.
Yeah.
These are pieces of art.
Yeah.
They're fascinating. We have over 600
Wow.
salt and pepper shakers. Next to the salt and pepper shaker is a Grover's Hardware. Well, who's Grover? Grover is a mainstay
Oh,
hardware
absolutely.
in Booth Bay Harbor.
yeah.
They've been here forever,
Ever.
and they're still open. Merritt
still
still
open.
runs it. So we have that. We have a post office. We have a general store. All are authentic from the early 1900s.
Yeah.
Then if we head down, we go to the homestead, which was built in 1872, and we moved it over here in the 1990s.
Yeah.
And it is classic homestead for the early 1900s. You didn't have retail stores in town in those days. You had maybe one, which was a
that's
general
true. Yeah,
store.
yeah.
So you had to make your own clothes, and you had to wash your own clothes, and
Right.
not in a automatic washing machine because they didn't have electricity.
The clotheslines were
And
used.
no TV. You had a radio, and you listened to radio at nighttime. So we have a toy shop that has toys from the early 1900s. And then we have back here, we have a outdoor motor exhibit. We have over 100 outdoor motors from 1917 to 1960. And if you look at them, it boggles your mind because you see the outdoor motors today, they're so different back then.
Yeah.
They're absolutely different. So absolutely fascinating. So you can feel what it was like to operate a boat in the early 1900s. And Booth Bay Harbor was a fisherman's village.
Absolutely.
It was not this fancy tourism.
No,
thing.
no,
It
no.
was a fisherman's
No.
village. So you can see what it was like back in the day, what kind of motors were used to power the boats.
I'm ready for a walk.
All righty.
So, Denny, we're in the outboard motor exhibit.
Correct.
What can you tell us?
Well, we got very fortunate. A gentleman by the name of Larry Stevenson, who was an outboard motor enthusiast, set on a journey to go across the country and find the history of outboard motors. And he and his wife Jane went across the country and picked up this amazing number of early days, 1917, 1925, 1950 outboard motors. And as you can see, it's absolutely fascinating.
It is.
To see it was like, especially compared to what we have today. It's
for
just
sure.
amazing.
Yeah.
But what an appropriate place to have it, in the sense that what was it like in Booth Bay Harbor in the early 1920s, 30s, and 40s? Well, it was a fishing village.
Absolutely.
And so the water was the mainstay of the economy, and to see how they used the outboard motors back then, to me, is just absolutely fascinating.
Denny, how many are in this?
Well, there's over 150.
Oh my God.
Think about what he was able to do and pick up. It's just absolutely amazing. They're small, they're big, they're every size that you can imagine. And
I remember the Evinrude.
yeah, well, the Evinrude, and I remember the Scott,
Yep.
Tiger Shark, Johnson. Remember the Johnsons?
Yes.
A lot of these I don't remember because I wasn't alive back then, but it actually is fascinating.
Yeah, it is fascinating. So, Denny, what can you tell us about the Heritage House?
It was built in 1872. We moved it from across the street in the early 1990s. And the Harrington House really reflects what it was like to live in a homestead in the late 1800s, early 1900s. As you look around, you'll see very interesting artifacts from those years. For example, the loom. Why did they have a loom in their barn? Well, they had a loom in the barn because in town back then, they had the town hall and a general store. And if you wanted clothing, you made your own.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Same thing as we look into the kitchen. There's a wood stove, not electric stove.
Right.
They didn't have electricity. It's interesting. In the corner over there is the washing machine. Well, it's a barrel. And you fill it with water, and you do your laundry by hand. So the Harrington House really does reflect what it was like to live in the early 1900s in Maine.
I'm looking at all these looms.
Yep.
So they're original. I mean,
Absolutely. Absolutely. These came over with the Harrington House in the early 1900s, and they had been in the house from the beginning.
And Lenny, I'm looking at these wagons, and I looked at the sleigh here. It said it was used by Dr. Philip Gregory. And Gregory delivered me as a baby.
I'll be down. So, well, it goes back. It goes back a while. Yeah, it goes back. It was fun. So
it is fun.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
All right. We're going to go up to the Auto Museum, and you're going to be fascinated. You're going to see automobiles from 1902 to 1968. Wow. And it's absolutely fascinating. You don't find museums with autos that go back that far.
No, God, no.
But we have them. No. We have them.
Oh, these are beautiful grounds here. Boy.
So we're heading up to the top of the village, where we have some really fascinating exhibits. And if you want to come up to the top of the exhibits, you can get off the train and hop right in.
That's
Maine Central Crossing Tenders Tower.
Oh, wow.
Not a replica, a real one from Bath, which is kind of interesting to see how they ran and conducted the trains back then.
And Denny, those buildings are in wonderful shape.
They're in good shape. We try to keep them that way, but remember, it was built in 1871, so that goes back in time. They built them well back then.
They built them very well.
Built them
very well.
This Summit Station is a station gift from Canada, because our founder spent a lot of time in Canada and got to know executives and politicians, and when they heard he was doing the village, they gave him this authentic Canadian station.
Well, that is a wonderful gift, I would say.
And I don't know if we have time to talk about this, but it's absolutely fascinating. This is called a Mercy car. It was first established in World War I and then was used in World War II. Okay, and we nickname it 48. Why? It holds 40 soldiers or 8 horses. Wow. In 1947, a group of American servicemen were very concerned. France was devastated after the war. They were struggling for food, medicine, clothing. These servicemen who had served in the European arena and in France decided they were going to help France. They got 40 rail cars starting on the West Coast. They crossed the country and filled them up with medicine, clothes, food. took them all the way to the East Coast and shipped them as a gift to France.
Wow.
As a thank you, France took 49 Mercy cars of these and gave them to each state, 48 states, but in 1949, there were only 48 states. Alaska and Hawaii weren't there.
Right.
The 49th car went to the District of Columbia.
I see.
Filled them with souvenirs from France and gave them. So, again, our founder was fascinating, absolutely fascinating and adventurous. He goes up to Augusta occasionally and sees this in the back of the state capitol and says, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Let's make it
Right.
a historical monument.
Yeah.
And moves it here, gets them to agree and moves it here, refurbishes it, and this is our Mercy car.
Wow. That is a beautiful addition, I'd
Yeah.
say, to the property.
So let's walk up here. This is a Tidal station. It was from East Booth Bay, moved in the 1990s.
Yeah.
Tidal.
Yeah. Oh, look at this
It's a
classic car.
1931 Ford Model A.
Wow.
Drives.
Oh, is
Larry
that
drives it out
beautiful.
every day. Starts it up
Wow.
and drives it out.
Oh, that's a classic.
That goes back in time, doesn't it?
Oh, and that's in beautiful shape.
They're good shape. Where do you see some of these other cars? They're
Whoa.
in perfect shape.
Is that an original color?
I believe it is.
Yeah.
Is that original color, Larry? Yes, it is.
Wow.
Larry is our expert in the
Ah.
auto museum.
Wow.
This is Stein and Larry.
Stein, it's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, too. Yeah, wow. Boy, this is amazing, the collection you have here.
So if you think this car's in good shape, wait till you see some of the cars in here. It'll blow your mind.
Wow.
There's not a car in there that isn't in terrific shape. They all look like they're brand new. I'd like to look like I'm brand new after 75, 80 years.
I'm still waiting. This is
our
amazing.
museum.
Wow, look at this.
These guys have
Wow.
done an amazing job. They arranged all the cars in chronological order. So you can go from 1902, which is this Rambler over here, to 1968. But what it does, it helps you follow how the industry evolved over 50 years. So it's all in context.
Yeah.
Mostly Model Ts, because Model Ts owned the market from 1915 to 1925. They sold over 10 million cars in 10 years and owned 80% of the market.
So the competition wasn't great for them.
Not till 1926, 27. And this car came out, the Chevrolet came out in 1927. It was bigger, more substantial, and it had an accessory of a 6-cylinder engine. And most importantly, if you knew anything about Henry Ford, he would tell his customers, you can have any color you want in my cars, as long as it's black. All his cars were black.
So the
All his
options
cars
were limited.
Very limited. But Chevy came out with multiple colors, and he forced Henry Ford to discontinue the Model T, and he came out with the Model A. And oh, by the way, it had multiple colors.
Well, this
It's
is
a fascinating.
It is just amazing.
And there's a black 1962 Rolls Royce Silver Cloud. We lease that out for weddings. So if you're in the Booth Bay region and get married, you can drive in style.
And what year is that?
1962. It's a 1962.
Wow. Boy, these are just beautiful. Now, the license plates, are they original?
Some are, yeah.
1930, I see on that one.
Yeah, 1930, 1931.
Boy, these are in tip-top shape.
In the late 20s and early 30s, there were 3 major luxury cars. Pierce Arrow,
Oh, look at this.
the Peerless, and Packard. This is a Peerless.
I'm not
Look
familiar
at
with
this
the
guy.
Peerless.
They're the 3s. It's a Peerless because it went out of business in 1929 during the Depression.
Very
Right
expensive
after-
then.
They're very expensive. So was the Packard. But this is a cherished car. It's George McAvoy's car. It's in pristine condition.
That is beautiful.
Absolutely pristine condition. And as I mentioned,
Beautiful.
we lease it out for weddings. But let me show you something. You may remember there was a commercial in the 1980s. See that Grey Poupon?
Yes.
There was a commercial on Great Pond with exactly the same Rolls Royce. It wasn't this one, but exactly the same. And it was a hilarious commercial. So
I remember
we
that.
keep people on their toes with a Grey Poupon in the back of the car.
But look at the length of this
Oh my
automobile.
gosh.
Huh?
Yeah, they made big cars back then.
And those white walls, was that original on them like that?
Yes.
The wide ones?
Yeah. Larry tries to keep all this stuff original. Absolutely original. That Hudson, that same Hudson in 1930, ran in the Indianapolis 500. 1930.
Oh, that's a beautiful collection.
So, Cadillacs, okay? Cadillacs started to come in Bay and to their own in the late 30s and 40s, okay?
Yep.
This Cadillac, notice what's on top?
The little
Light.
power light.
This Cadillac was owned by Thomas Edison's widow.
Really?
She lived in New York, and she would go to the opera every Friday night. And when she drove, her limousine was driven by a chauffeur to the opera, there were 30 and 40 black Cadillacs. So she'd come out, and she wouldn't be able to find her Cadillac. She put a lamp on top.
So that was the beacon for her.
That was the beacon for her to find her car.
Look at the length of the hood on
They're
that.
huge, absolutely
Jeez.
huge.
Amazing.
And these are Packards.
Oh,
Four
boy, the
Packards from that
yeah.
era. That era in the 30s, Packards ruled the roost.
Oh, they did,
really,
didn't they?
They were the luxury car.
That was a status symbol, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And look at these are Ford Thunderbirds here, right?
66,
Oh,
58,
I'd say beautiful.
57.
Oh, I remember those. Look at the pink one there.
Yep.
Oh, those are amazing.
Ford Thunderbird came out 2 years after Corvette started in 1953
Yep.
to compete. Because
Yep.
Ford and Chevy and Ford and GM always competed, always
Yeah.
competed.
Yeah. So, Denny, I see we're in front of some Jeeps.
Yep.
That's what I drive.
Oh boy.
I love my
Oh, boy.
Jeep.
Good for you.
What can
Good
you
for
tell us about these?
Okay, these two Jeeps, one built in 1946 and 48, but they were designed in 1941 by the U.S. military. The U.S. military went out and bid automobile manufacturers to make a four-wheel drive vehicle for their servicemen, primarily in Europe. Okay, so they designed it. Most people don't realize Willys was the original Jeep. Okay, and so everybody looks at these and say, well, they had to be designed by Willys. No, they were designed by the U.S. military, and during the military years, 41 to 45, there were over 650,000 of these made.
Wow.
But not just by Willys. Most people don't realize Ford made them
Really?
also. Ford made almost 286,000 of them, and Willys a Jeep. What happened was Willys actually licensed the Jeep to Ford, and after the war, they took the license back and built your Jeeps.
Wow. Okay. Well,
But it's
I learned
fascinating.
something. Wow.
It's absolutely fascinating. These were quite reliable, and you know how they shipped them overseas?
No.
They put them in crates, and they would send them over obviously by boat. But then to get them into combat, they'd parachute them down in these crates, and the servicemen and women had to put them together.
Oh, God.
It was absolutely fascinating.
That's amazing.
Yep, absolutely fascinating. So,
Well, thank you for that info.
you're welcome. So this was built in the 1990s, and the concept was, let's recreate a Maine seaport and how the economy revolved around the train.
Right.
And as it did, because big-time trucking hadn't come about.
No.
It wasn't until 1995 and President Eisenhower did we have an interstate highway system.
Right.
So the trains were the essential
They were.
transport for all kinds of goods.
Absolutely.
And what I hope you'll see here is how that worked within the Maine communities.
So now we're entering the model railroad exhibit.
Exactly.
Oh, Denny,
Hello.
look at all this stuff.
Hi.
Wow.
Hi, how are
Wow,
If you don't mind-
amazing.
So 20 years it took us with donations and volunteers, and it's exemplifying the state of Maine in different parts of it.
Right. I've got my old Lionel train at home, so
Oh, do you really?
back in the 50s it was given to my brother and I.
Do you run it?
Still works.
Oh, wow, good for you.
It does.
But what
Yeah.
these guys have done, they have recreated Maine towns and really illustrate how the trains effectively drove the commerce.
Yeah, it was-
And so you'll see some very familiar building replicas. Maine Central and
Yeah, yeah,
Portland Press Herald.
yeah. Oh, this is amazing. This is
Yeah.
a wonderful set.
They've done a nice job in kind of recreating what it was like.
A great job. Yeah.
It's and it's fun. The kids just go bonkers when they see this because they've never seen trains
Yeah,
like
that's
this.
true. Yeah.
And the multitude of the number of trains that are running at the same time.
You know, I still enjoy getting my old train out, my
bet you
Lionel.
do. I'll bet you do.
Yeah.
I bet you you'd have a great time.
I can relate to this. So.
I'll bet you can. I'll bet you can. I guess we're time to wrap it up, huh? Bye.
So, Denny, after this wonderful walk around the property, I'm wondering, how do you fund all these buildings?
Well, that's a great question because it's really important because it's an ongoing challenge to keep it up and running and perfect like you've seen it. We have membership, which is really important, our visitors, and we have donations. And you should be aware that we have a number of different events every year. We have children's events, and we reach out to the families, and we allow the children to come in free, and the family pays their due. Okay, Father's Day, fathers come in free.
Right.
We had Founders Day a week ago, and we invited all of our members plus guests and other citizens of the Boothbay region, and they could come in free to celebrate our founder. So it's a ongoing challenge to keep the money in because,
Sure
as
it
you
is.
might imagine, we've got to keep the cars running, and we've got to keep the buildings in good shape.
Well, you do a wonderful job. I'm really impressed. It's been a while since I've been in here, and I really enjoyed this.
I'm glad you did. I enjoyed taking you on a tour. It's
And
fun.
Denny, I want to thank you for giving us a great insight and facts on the Boothbay Railway Village. And it's been a real pleasure talking with you and continued success here.
Thank you very much. I've had a real pleasure talking with you. Real pleasure. I always have real pleasure explaining what we have here because so many people don't know how expansive 31 exhibits, 35 acres, but most importantly, all authentic. That's what we really enjoy presenting. So
that really stands
makes my
out.
job fun.
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
So I think we'll close. Have I covered everything? Is there anything you'd like to add?
I think you've covered. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you filming us. And we just wish everybody comes and has the experience that you just had.
It was good.
So they can enjoy all the wonderful things we have here.
I will verify that wonderful experience. I really enjoyed it. Before we close, can you give us how patrons can get tickets here and your website?
Okay, so there are two ways to do that. The website is railwayvillage.org. We sell memberships and we sell tickets to events on the website, but we don't sell tickets for the visitors to come. We want them to come to the Freeport station and experience what it was like to buy a ticket to the railway back in the day. So we don't sell tickets to for the visitors, but everything else is sold on the website.
Well, that's only proper, I think.
Yes, thank you.
So I think we'll close the show for now. I'm Tim Lewis, a Boothbay Harbor native and your host of Chasing Time, signing off from the Boothbay Railway Village. So I always close on a positive high, and I think this one fits this setting perfect. Remembering the past gives power to the present. Till we meet again, my friends, stay forever young.